All right, once again, good morning. Welcome, everyone. For today's session, we are looking at getting started at Crossref. This is basically an introduction for our new members. So we are hoping our new members learn a lot of new things. If you are not entirely new, you will probably pick one or two things that you are not too sure about. So essentially, this webinar has been organized for our new members to get to know what it means to be a Crossref member and what is expected of you as a Crossref member. For today's agenda, we'll be looking at the benefits and obligations of being a Crossref member, why metadata is so important, the structure of Crossref DOIs, displaying DOIs, the different ways you can register your metadata and update them, invoicing, and how you can get help when in need. If you have any questions during the presentations, please write them in the Q&A chat, in the Q&A instead of the chat, because we like to reserve the Q&A for only questions for us to easily keep track of them and to answer your questions accordingly and fast. So please know that the chat is not for questions, only the Q&A is for questions. Okay, so brief presentation. My name is Delma Lai. I'm a DevOps engineer in the infrastructure team here at Crossref, and I'll lead you through the first half of the presentation. I'm also here with my colleagues, Natalie and Caitlin, so they would introduce themselves.
Hello. I'm Natalie. I'm a tech support specialist at Crossref and I'm based in Georgia.
Hi, I'm Caitlin. I'm part of the member support team and I'm based in the Philippines. So it's evening on my end, but I'm happy to be here with you all. Welcome to Crossref.
Thank you. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Caitlin. All right. A little bit of housekeeping rules. Like I already mentioned, so we have the Q&A box with the question mark. That is where all your questions should go to. In case you're having any issues listening to us, you could always enable the captions to follow closely. It's very important to have your mic muted unless given the chance to speak and turn off your video so that you do not distract others from listening closely to the presentation. And if you feel any slide is really resonating to you, feel free to react with a thumbs up or a heart or raise your hand if you have a question that you would like to see at the very end of the session. You would try and reserve 15 minutes at the end of this meeting for Q&A, so not to worry. Also, this session is being recorded, so in case you miss anything, we will share the recording via email to every single person on this call within a few days. For questions I already mentioned to use the Q&A, so this is very important. Do not use the chat, but use the Q&A box with the question mark below. I already mentioned we have 50 minutes, so 50 minutes for just Q&A. And per our company policies, we do not allow any AI reporting tool or recording tool. This is to respect our privacy and the privacy of our members who joined. So kindly know that you will not be able to use AI to transcribe this meeting, unfortunately. And you could view more of our code of conduct in the link when we share the presentation. All right, so I mentioned that this meeting is for essentially new members joining Crossref. So we'll just get started. As a new member in Crossref, you'll most likely have received emails from us. These emails will have your Crossref DOI prefix, which we'll look at pretty soon, instructions on how to set your password with your new Crossref credentials, help for choosing your content registering tool, billing cycle information, which we'll look at in today's presentation as well, voting processes and reports and support. So essentially, the webinar for today will be covering a few of these topics that you have received in the email from Crossref as a member joining. So, like every organization you join, there are responsibilities required of you and there are privileges you gain as being a member of that organization. And the same principle is applied here at Crossref. So, we are going to take a look at the benefits you get as a Crossref member and the obligations expected of you as a Crossref member. So, benefits as a Crossref member. Key benefit one is Crossref allows you to create a persistent identifier, which is called a DOI, digital object identifier for each object, and register a metadata record for that item. So by registering your objects with us and creating your DOIs, you are becoming part of our globally connected network of scholarly research, which grows every single year. Currently, we are over 23,000 organizational members from over 164 different countries who have registered over 160 million items with us. And today you become part of that globally connected network. This DOI and metadata record is then globally shared with hundreds of tools and thousands of users freely on our open APIs that you can easily access without paying for these APIs. This enhances the discoverability of your publications and makes sure that your article or your research content is easily found or discoverable. You also get to benefit from a wider range of additional services we offer here at Crossref as being part of the Crossref membership. So one is cited by, which simply tells you how many times your research content has been cited by other people in the research space, or similarity check, which is simply an anti-plagiarism tool that lets you see how similar your content is to already existing published work. At Crossref, we have a board that we are governed by, and as a member, you get the chance to be part of creating that board by voting or be a part of the board by standing to be on the board, thereby giving your voice to how we govern things at Crossref. Okay, obligations or responsibility required as being a member of Crossref. Number one is a key obligation is every member of Crossref is required to register a DOI with us. A DOI and their metadata records for every single thing you publish going forward. This is not optional. Every member is required to have a DOI that is registered with all their research articles. And you should make sure that your registered records or content are the contents you published, not other publishers. Because in the long run, you are going to take the responsibility of stewarding the content and the metadata of these DOIs. Therefore, you need to be the publisher of this DOI. So what I mean is, for example, if you are in a university, you should only register DOI for articles or journals the university publishes. You shouldn't register DOI for other research content published by other organizations, even if a member of your team or staff is an author of the other organization. It should always be within your university or your organization being the publisher of the content. Because remember, I said you will be the steward for that DOI forever. Now, once that DOI has been registered, this means that you have a unique identifier for that particular item forever. Forever. And even if there's change, because we know it's a research world, the research world is dynamic. Even if there's a change to the content, the DOI doesn't change. The DOI stays the same. But now the metadata associated with that DOI is going to be updated to map to the new changes. So let's say the new DOI has been changed, the content has been changed to a new website, or a new publisher has the content. So now the DOI metadata should point to the new publisher or should point to the new landing page of the content. The DOI itself never changes. It's also important to know that you can acquire DOIs. You can acquire a journal from another member, and even if they already have a DOI in their existing records, we can always transfer ownership of the journal title to you, and you should continue to use and display any existing DOI that is associated with that journal. Do not worry if that DOI did not originally belong to you, but you'll be given access to update the metadata of these existing records, even if the prefix isn't yours. Another important obligation is to know that your DOI that you register with us should always provide a resolution URL. This simply means if anybody in the research space has your DOI, they should be able to paste it in their browser and it should resolve to a landing page that has enough bibliographic information that a reader can know that they have arrived at the right place. So simply, your DOI should be able to be expressed as a link that resolves to research content. Another key importance is reference linking. You should be able to, at the end of your articles, you should be able to display in your references every possible DI that are available so that anyone reading your reference list can easily click on the DOI link and access the content of that reference. This is very important. Please, let's all take notes as new members that we should add referencing links of DOIs to our references. And last but not the least, you should always have the habit of maintaining and updating your metadata records for as long as possible and as frequently as possible. And finally, make sure you pay your invoices on time. More details will be shared about that in the subsequent slides. Okay, I have mentioned metadata quite a lot. Why is metadata so important to us? Before we get to that, what is metadata? So metadata, as we all know, simply describes data that describes data. So we have basic metadata as titles of journals, of articles, authors of these journals, articles, or research content in general, funding information about the funder or grant IDs if that is available, relationship with other work. So for example, if the original work is in English and has another work in Spanish, that falls under relationship with other work. And if there have been any updates to the previously existing work or there have been any withdrawals, these are all essential metadata that could be added to your research content DOI. Okay. This is an example of a metadata, and in this format, not to worry, you wouldn't have to stress about what you are looking at right now, but this is simply an XML format, and this is how we like to receive metadata in Crossref, because that ensures that the metadata is both readable by humans and by other systems that use our content. And this metadata is openly available through our free APIs to the scholarly community, and it makes it easy for your work to be discovered downstream by the other systems that ingest our information. So we can see here that we have a DOI that has been highlighted in blue, and then this particular work has been cited by once. So again, we have other tools that helps you to have your metadata in XML format, so you shouldn't be worried exactly about getting this XML format when depositing your metadata. All right. So I mentioned earlier that access to our metadata is freely accessible via our REST API, our open API. And this is relied on by a large part of the research information community and beyond. We receive around 2 billion requests each month through these APIs. And this graph or this diagram displayed is essentially a summary of how these tools and organizations use the metadata through our APIs. So in the external ring, we have the different types of tools and organization that uses our metadata. And then in the internal ring, we have the different ways that metadata is used. So we can see that metadata is used by discovery and analytics tools, by the Web of Science and Scopus, and they use this to fill metadata gaps, verify records, and search and discover research content. So this is just to let you know that when you register your DOI and you deposit metadata with us, it's not just going to stay in the database, but it's actually creating a connection for your research content to be easily discoverable in the research world. All right, so I have mentioned DOI a couple of times. So let's look at the structure of a DOI. So as a member, when you receive your email, you will get your DOI prefix, which we mentioned earlier. But this essentially is the structure of a DOI. So we have the red parts, we have the blue, and then we have the yellow. So the first half of the DOI is the DOI directory. So this is the resolver address. This is what makes the DOI an actionable link in the browser. And then the blue part, that's the middle, is the prefix we assign to every member that joins Crossref. So every member's prefix is unique and usually starts with a 10 dot and then subsequent digits. And then we have the yellow part, which is the suffix, which is assigned by the member, not Crossref, and should be unique per each content being registered. So in total, we have the DOI resolver, which helps to resolve the DOIs, the prefix given by Crossref, and the suffix given by the member. All right, let's look at DOI prefix. So the prefix starts with a 10 dots and is followed either by a 4-digit or a 5-digit. So for original or earlier prefixes, they had 4 digits, but recently from 2012, which is not so recent actually, they have 5 digits, not 4 digits. So every new titles may be added at any time to any publication. Once a prefix has been registered, you can publish different types of content. It doesn't have to be a particular type of content per prefix. You could publish books, journals, articles with a prefix that has been given to you. There's no limit to the number of DOIs you can create, and there's not a minimum number of DOI that is required. And you could publish any time of the week, day or month, or even yearly. DOIs can be registered at any time. All right, now we have the suffix which is provided by the member. Key thing to note is that your suffixes should be short strings and be opaque as much as possible. What do I mean by opaque? Opaque that you do not have a hidden meaning or a human readable information in your suffix. The reason we say this is your DOIs are going to be there forever, and we do not want systems to be predicting your next suffixes based on a particular pattern that has been observed. So our best advice is your suffixes should be simple, they should be short, and they should be opaque. You shouldn't include anything in your suffix that may change in the future because your DOI will be there in the future forever and should be the same as it was created. And you can have your suffixes from A to, including characters from A to Z and 0 to 9. And not to worry, suffixes are not case sensitive, so you should be good on that side. You could also include certain characters as hyphens and parentheses. If you need to add any particular information to your suffix, maybe page numbers, ISBN, do not include them in your suffix, just include them in the metadata, not the suffix. And we have special suffix generating tools that help members who struggle with generating simple and opaque suffixes. So you could use our OJS platform, which more details will be shared on that, or you could use our helper tool, which will be the link will be shared with the presentation slides. All right. So once a member has registered, they have received their DOI, how can they display their DOIs? So display guidance of your DOIs. First, your DOIs should not be posted on your website until they have been successfully registered and the DOI is active. When when listing the DOIs on your content, we have guidelines for displaying them on your website. It's very important for consistency and usability that all members follow these guidelines. And one of the most important guidelines is your DOI should be an actionable URL, which we've already spoken about in previous slides. These guidelines should be followed by users to ensure that anyone in the research world could easily copy and paste the DOIs and be resolved to the particular research content they are looking for. Using the full URL gives users the ability to have a persistent link as well as a persistent identifier, and also enables machines to recognize DOIs as URLs. We also recommend to use HTTPS, a secure format, instead of HTTP when displaying your DOIs. Right. So your landing page is the resolution URL that you provide when you register your content with us. In other words, it's simply the place where the reader will be taken to when they click your DOI in their browser. Your landing page should, one, have a full bibliographic citation so readers know they have arrived at the right place. It also needs to have a DOI displayed as a URL, which we've already mentioned in the guidelines, and it should have a way to access the full text. If it's a PDF and is supposed to be downloaded, it should have a download link that the user could have access to the PDF. If your research content is a paid service and is behind a paywall, the landing page should not be behind that paywall. The landing page should be easily accessible by anyone in the research world. And then this landing page would send the user to the paywall for that particular research content. This is very important to note, that do not hide your landing page behind a paywall, even if your research content is only for subscribed members. Another key thing to note that is make sure your DOI is being displayed and resolved correctly. Meaning when you click in the browser, you should be able to automatically go to the landing page of that DOI. If you click and you get a DOI not found, it probably means something went wrong and the DOI is not registered. You could feel free to reach out to our technical support team and they could help you troubleshoot the issue. All right, so not a suitable landing page is the example I'm displaying. So when you have a landing page, the DOI should be specific to the research content that is attached to the DOI. We can see on this page that we have numerous research contents that are being displayed. This is an example of a not suitable landing page. Only the content that DOI resolves to should be what is displayed on the landing page. All right, so Natalie would continue from here.
Yeah, I will share my screen in a minute. So in this section, we can talk about different ways to register your content with us. As we have said, when Crossref members register their content with us, they include much more than just a DOI and a resource resolution URL. They include a range of other metadata too, the article title, the journal name, the authors, affiliations, ORCID IDs, and license information, etc. Metadata about all the content that's been registered with Crossref is held in our system as XML format, and members can choose to register their content with us by sending us XML files directly, or if they are not comfortable with doing that, we also have a range of different helper tools. These helper tools provide a way for the members to fill in the online form with their metadata and type the information about their publications, and then our system turns this metadata into the XML file behind the scenes. Our web deposit form and the new metadata manager are two examples of such helper tools, and for the members who host their content on the OJS platform from PKP, there are special Crossref plugins to help you add in your metadata and then register it with Crossref. First, we will talk about the open journal system and how you can how you can submit your metadata and register your DOIs through the open journal systems by PKP because so many organizations use OJS. Several years ago, Crossref and PKP began a collaboration to create a less technical method for OJS users to register metadata and to help publishers and journals take advantage of Crossref services. We started with a Crossref XML export plugin that sent basic metadata directly to Crossref from OJS. Here on the slide, you can see a bit details about two versions, 3.3 and 3.4, and the plugins that are essential for depositing metadata from these versions. And instructions which will on the slides which will be sent to you after the webinar. We are currently working on the documentation for the latest OJS version, which is 3.5. And in our instructions, I wanted to mention that you will find as the video instructions for the other OJS versions 3.4 and 3.3, and also the text versions with screenshots, which will be which will help you to follow the Crossref plugin configuration process. We wanted to talk a bit about the most common error which the OJS users encounter when they are trying to configure their DOI plugin settings. And it's the authentication problem in the plugin. So when you become a Crossref member, you will receive a set of credentials that allow you to register content with us. Those credentials need to be properly configured in the OJS plugins. There are two types of credentials that we currently use in Crossref. There are role credentials and user credentials. Your role credentials contain only your role and the password and are most common amongst our sponsored members. Your sponsor will either provide you with the password so you can configure in your OJS plugin yourself, or probably the sponsor will be doing it for you. But for most of our independent members, the fact is that you will receive user credentials. This means that you and your colleagues will have their own emails connected to the shared role of the organization, and they can log into the systems by their user credentials. And these user credentials are your email address and the role of the organization that was issued by Crossref. You can see here on the slide the user credentials section where we have filled in the user field by support crossref.org as an email address and / and then the role, which is our internal crafters role. So you will have the similar credentials to configure in your DOI plugin settings. There are also additional OJS Crossref plugins, content registration, which we talked about already. Then there are reference linking plugin for depositing references and similarity check, authenticate, and the funder registry. These plugins vary by version and they move to different places in different versions of the IGS, which is why it's good to make sure that you're up to date on the OJS installation. Also, PKP is continually working with Crossref to improve the level of overall DOI expert support provided within OJS. But a small note that OJS is run by PKP and not Crossref. And we can help you with deposits and with configuring your user credentials, like providing you additional information about user credentials if you're entering them, for example, incorrectly. But we are not able to provide direct support in setting up your OJS instance, for example. And on the slide here, I've put a link to the OJS documentation and their support forum, which is very active. And if you will have any questions about your OJS instance and its configuration, you can always consult with the support forum from PKP. Now we can move to the new metadata manager, which is our newest tool. And it can be used currently it can be used for journal articles, grant reports, dissertations, and post-publication updates only. At the top of the page, you can see how to access the form, and you can choose to create a record create a record or upload a record you have already created using this form. And if this is the first time you're using this form, you can choose new record tab. And just a quick note that your journal needs to have an ISSN to use this tool. If you do not have an ISSN, you will need to use our web deposit form. Here you can select the type of record you wish to register. We are working on adding support for additional record types, for example, books and book chapters. In this part, we will show you how to register a journal article. So we will select that. We have selected that option. On the slide, you see the various fields to fill in all the information about the article you're registering. And if you see those fields with the asterisk, those fields are mandatory to fill in. For example, article title, article DOI, landing page, authors, ORCID IDs. Once this is done, you will include information about the journal title the article is being published in. You have the option to include issue info, but don't have to, and it may be easier not to. And once you have added all the information, you can hit submit and send the information to us. And this is how the form will look like after you hit the submit button. You will see your DOI and the submission ID. And submission ID are always helpful if you need any help with our support team. Please provide us with submission ID because this makes finding the specific record in all the past deposits on your prefix much easier for the support team members. And if there is an error, we have a list of error messages and what they mean on the website, which is indicated on the slide. For example, in this case, we see the error code 401, which tells us that ISSN, the specific ISSN, which is indicated in the error message, has already been assigned, and it has been assigned to a title Journal of End-to-End Testing. So this is one of the common errors, and this error occurs when the ISSN, when the journal title you have indicated in the metadata in your current submission differs from the journal title that we have associated in our title records with the specific ISSN. And keep in mind that the title records in our system are created once you have successfully registered first DOI for the journal, and all the future subsequent submissions are tested against this title record. So if an information, for example, or ISSN or journal title inner title record differs from the title that you have now submitted, you will receive this error message. In any system, not only new metadata manager, but any system, any helper tool that you are using. We can continue to talk about other content registration methods in this section. Since not all members are able to generate their own XMLs or use OJS, we have alternative options. We have a manual entry form or helper tool called the web deposit form. The form is very basic. You can enter your data field by field, and it writes and submits XML for processing. You do not need to know XML to use this form. You can just type in the information straight in, It is more limited in what it collects compared to what you can send via XML direct deposit form, but it is simple and less technical. You can use the web deposit form to register journals, books, conference proceedings, reports, dissertations, your Crossmark policy page if you're using Crossmark, and supplemental metadata. There are also some metadata elements that you can currently register as part of your initial deposit via the web deposit form. However, you can add them, many of this information metadata, you can add them to an existing deposit later on using other tools. I will give you the list of the elements that can currently be included in your initial deposit with the web deposit form and your options for adding them later. For example, for funding and license information, similarity check URLs, and these types of information can be added to existing DOI in bulk using a supplemental metadata upload. And references. For references, you can use one of the forms, which is the simple text query form, which we will talk about shortly. As we already mentioned, the metadata that our members register with us is stored in XML, and our XML schema provides a structure and set of rules to keep everything consistent and interoperable. We have a single deposit schema which supports a range of different content types. For certain types of updates, we also offer the resource-only section of the schema. Of course, for those of you who are planning to create and send us your own XML files, the samples are linked at the end of this slide at the bottom. There are an excellent resource for the best practice examples. So in this section, we move from content registration to updating existing metadata records. As mentioned earlier, maintaining your metadata is an obligation. There is a fee when you initially register your DOI and metadata record, but you can make any number of updates to the metadata record after your initial registration, and these updates are always free of charge. Once you start depositing metadata with us, maintaining is key to keeping it clean, complete, and up to date. You should identify and correct any errors that you may find after you have already registered the DOI and update the record. You need to update the record so that it is complete and add information for additional fields, and also up to date. For example, if you have migrated the platform and the web address of your journal, for example, has changed and the URLs have changed, you will need to deposit the URL update so that DOIs resolve to the intended landing pages of the journals. It is always important that readers can find and use the content that is published, and incorrect and outdated metadata will not help researchers to find your content. There are different ways also to update existing records one by one. For example, one way is to use the OJS plugin if the journal is published on OJS. And then there are helper tools that will help you to update record, and you can also always deposit the correction update to the record via XML. For example, if we look at how to update the record from OJS, you will need to find the record you wish to update, leave the relevant fields blank to delete it, or add in your metadata to update it, and deposit it again using the Crossref import-export plugin. For other helper tools, for example, if you're using the web deposit form, you can use that to make those changes. But please With working with any helper tool, please note that you will need to redeposit all of your metadata. For example, if you find that you misspelled an author's name or surname or etc., you have to manually type in or copy paste, not just the author's name, but all the other information that you have submitted before. It's because the new deposit will override the older deposit. For XML redeposit, you will, when making an update, you must supply all the bibliographic metadata as well for the record, not just the fields that need to be changed. And during the metadata update process, we overwrite the existing metadata with the new information you submit. So a null value will be inserted for anything that is left in blank. And one mention on URL updates. If you just need to update your URLs and nothing in the other metadata fields needs to be changed, for example, as I mentioned earlier, after the platform migration or after the journal title transfer from one prefix to another, you do not need to resubmit all the metadata. You can simply upload or send to us a TXT file containing, with a special header containing in one column a list of the DOIs and in another column the current URL addresses. There are few metadata fields that you can update in bulk by uploading a CSV file into our web deposit form. The CSV needs to be in a specific format, and the templates for all the update formats are available on our website in the links provided. And this file needs to contain the list of DOI records that need updating and the update in the other column. These are the elements that can be updated in bulk this way. For example, these are funding data, similarity check URLs, license info. Yes, mentioned earlier, yes, you can send us a TXT file, and more information on updating the resolution URLs you can find on the link below. You can either send the already prepared TXT file to us, or you can upload the TXT file in our admin tool using the bulk URL update button. We are moving to the last section of our presentation now, which is about invoicing, because we do receive questions from members about invoices and payment options. So we wanted to discuss a few that we see most often. For most members, there are two types of fees associated with Crossref membership. There is an annual fee, which covers your membership, and the content registration fee, which are a one-off fee for each item you register with us. This will vary by content type and publication date. The membership invoice is sent out at the beginning of each year in January to cover the forthcoming year, and the content registration invoices are sent out quarterly in January, April, July, and October. These content registration invoices are sent out after you have registered your DOIs, and this is because there are different fees depending on the type of content being registered and whether it's current content or back-year content. The content registration invoice will include the number of items registered for each prefix. It will also list the month that the content was registered, and if the content, it will indicate if the content is current year or back year. Current year means that content published during this and the two previous years. And back file is content published before that. We must also note that you may not receive a content registration invoice every single quarter. If the amount of content you register in a quarter totals less than $100 USD, we roll it over to the next quarter. This is to avoid members having to pay lots of smaller invoices, which may incur international and bank charges. If you have not reached $100 in the specific quarter in fees, by the last quarter of the year, we send out an invoice for whatever the balance is at this time for this year. This means that if you have only registered a small number of DOIs in your first year, you won't receive an invoice until right at the end of the year in your quarter four invoice, which is sent out the following January. We generally email invoices to your billing contact for Crossref, but you can also find invoices anytime using our payment portal, from where you can pay your membership or content registration fees by credit card. Yes. And on the next slide, we have provided information about how to get help. We have here links for the members area. We have a link for our documentation and community forum. We have a way to contact our team directly for any support questions or account details and contact updates. And we have also provided documentation and contact for PKP because a lot of our members use OJS for publishing. And if you will need any further information or future help, you can refer always to our support documentation and community forum. And of course, you can always write to our support, technical support and member support, and we will be able to help you. Thank you. And now we will move to the questions section. We have around 10 minutes or less for questions.
Right. We have some interesting questions here in our Q&A box. So from Simon, we're currently using WordPress as our publishing platform for reports and other publications. Are there any recommended WordPress plugins or integration tools, either provided by Crossref or by third parties, that can streamline the DOI registration and metadata submission process? We'd be interested in learning about any best practices or commonly used solutions. Would you have any insights, Natalie?
I know we have there is plugin for OJS, and there is also an automatic deposit for DSpace users, but I will research further into it and get back to you, but not in our documentation, and we have not developed, and I don't know if any third party that have developed WordPress plugins.
Thank you. The next question, Crossref display guidelines differ from the XML registration format. Therefore, is it okay to display the XML format in my landing page?
Probably in the XML format, the Jonathan means the format only of a DOI 10 dot prefix and slash and then suffix, but you should follow our display guidelines as indicated in our documentation, and always remember that on your landing pages, DOIs should be displayed as URLs starting with HTTPS. So that the readers can click on the DOI and be directly redirected to the landing page.
Okay, we have another interesting question from Jabulani. What is metadata? Is it raw data that I collect from the field, say water quality data, metadata?
No, it's basically data about data. Metadata is a data about the publication. Metadata means, for example, the metadata for a publication would be the publication title, publication authors, journal information, or conference proceedings information. Data about publication.
All right, thank you so much. And the next question from Antonio Tupek. I was told that Crossref provides up to 100 similarity checks per year. Is this correct? If so, where can we access this service and how do we use it? Is there anything that needs to be enabled or configured in our Crossref account to access these checks?
Yes, up to 100 documents are free to check on similarity check for the year, and for the remaining documents, you will have to pay the fee. And please note that there is also, you need to be a Crossref member, of course, and there is also an additional fee, which is the 20% of your membership fee for Crossref to use the similarity check service. And also, there are some requirements. For example, you need to provide a full text URLs for 90% of your records that you have deposited to Crossref. You can find the information about similarity check in our documentation. Caitlin, maybe you can provide in the chat
Yeah, I will.
documentation about similarity check, and you will find there in our documentation, you will find a link where you can check whether you comply with the requirements of 90% of full text URL deposits in our system. And if yes, then it will take you to the page, to the link where you can apply to become the similarity, to use the similarity check service.
Thank you. And question from Matt. Does every content you publish include past content or just future content?
Yes, but you can assign, you can register DOIs for the content retroactively in the past, and it's encouraged. And it also, if it's content that was published earlier, it's older than 3 years, the fees will be different. They will be less, 15 USD cents. While the fee for the current year content is $1.
Yep. And there's a piggyback question from Biruk here. Is payment system accept Ethiopian banks? So I believe I don't think there's any restriction to this as long as it's in US dollars. So it depends on your bank. And then next, another question from Matt. What are the restrictions on who can be a member of Crossref? Can a public health agency join to assign DOIs to its publications?
Well, if you publish scholarly content, and if you think that the scholarly content will be citable and beneficial for the scholarly community, basically, if you're a scholarly organization that publishes content, you can become a member. And Caitlin, maybe you can also provide a link
All right, wait,
from the membership documentation.
hold on. All right. I added a link in the chat. You can go to the Are You Eligible section to see if your organization is eligible to join. So there's a question from Antonio. I'm using OJS 3.3 with the DOI plugin to register DOIs with Crossref. The DOI registration completes successfully, but when I later review the record in Crossref Metadata Manager, I noticed that the author's affiliations are missing. The author affiliations are present in OJS, but they do not seem to be included in the metadata deposited to Crossref. Is this a limitation of OJS 3.3? Or is there a configuration setting that enables author affiliations to be deposited with the Crossref metadata?
I would need to look into it. If you can provide, I think the best way would be if you could contact us at support Crossref mail and provide us with your prefix so we can check all your past deposits and what metadata was deposited to us.
All right, thank you. And then I think Sumayat has some troubles logging into their account. They tried several times, but it keeps showing invalid username and password. So yeah, I believe the best way for us to help with you with this is to send us an email at support@crossref.org, and please provide as much details to your account as possible. Thank you. So, question from Muhammad. This journal uses Open Journal Systems 3.4.0.3. Is it 3 or 4?
It's 3.
Okay.
The release 3 point and the release is 4. Version 3, release 4.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Another question from an anonymous attendee. We issue first version without adding DOI numbers. How do we add DOI to that numbers?
So as I understand, they have already published, for example, an issue or a volume of a journal or another type of record, and they want to register for it their DOIs. You will just need to deposit the metadata for the issue or volume or any other record type that you have already published.
Okay.
It's
Thank
not a
you.
problem. Like you can always register DOIs for the publications that you have already published. You had already published before joining Crossref.
Right. And then last question here. We are using OJS and Crossref XML plugin tool. If the DOI registered is not opaque, how can I change that?
So once the DOI is registered, since it's a persistent identifier, you cannot change those DOIs that are already registered, but you can change the settings in your OJS DOI plugin. And as I remember, there are three versions of your choosing. Like you can, for example, choose the manual, or you can choose the pattern, or you can choose the DOI suffix to be generated automatically. And the recommended way is for you to choose the automatic generation of DOIs. That way, DOIs will be opaque, what we call dump. So they will have no meaning, no journal abbreviation, or any other part that can identify a specific information about a journal.
Thank you. And I'm also adding a link here in the chat for the suggested DOI registration workflow, including a link to our suffix generator if you would like to use that as well. All right, so we're on top of the hour. Thank you so much, everyone. And yeah.
Thank you, everyone. And I wanted to say that you can always, if you will have additional questions, like maybe not right now, but a bit later, if you encounter any problem, you can always contact us, tech support and membership support. We are ready to help.
All right.
Yay. Thank you,
And
everyone. Enjoy your evening, enjoy your day. And
record
look
the
out for the
also.
presentation we will send.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.